Part 2, Part 2, Part 2, Part 2, Part 2, Part 2. Just kidding. The reason why I mentioned Part 2 is because there are so many Part 2s released and some yet to release. But the point is sequels. The recent Part 2 is Pushpa Part 2 The Rule, which is making waves at the box office and breaking the records. But also there is heavy criticism, especially about the climax of this Part 2, which is very similar to the criticism the Part 1 climax received. Not just this movie, the recent blockbuster Devara also received similar criticism. Sequels in Indian cinema have gone a long way. We are not so far from Hollywood. Once viewed with apprehension by both audience and makers, sequels were a gamble fraught with uncertainty. Today, sequels have become not only common but also essential for big budget films. But are these sequels really working? Or is this sequel culture turning to be a threat to pan-Indian movies? And most importantly, are all the sequels bad? This is Maruti Acharya and we will break down the sequel culture in today's video. But before that, looking at the trend, where will Pushpa 2 end its box office run? Your guess, and which upcoming movie, according to you, might have the potential to beat these numbers? Your guesses, mention that in the comments below. Let me start with an example. You walk into a store. They have a great collection, variety, and also the service. You try different products and buy, and while leaving, you will be offered a special discount on your next purchase. You are happy with the product and experience, you will go back anyway. This discount is an added incentive. But if there's not enough collection and the quality is not up to the mark, and if they tell you on your next purchase, you will get more stock and discount. Which one would you prefer? This is just an example to explain the point. With this example, another joke. That is why people are more gravitating towards online shopping. Understood? Coming back to the topic, let's try and understand which of these sequel films worked and why. Which didn't and why. Why is Rajamouli being blamed for the Pushpa 2 climax? Number 1. Movies that worked. Many people believe Rajamouli introduced the sequel culture with Bahubali 2. Since then, every big pan-India film have been teasing a cliffhanger, whether it's truly one or not. Films like Devara and Pushpa 2 have been criticized for their utterly unsatisfied endings. So let's start with Bahubali. Why was everyone excited for a sequel? Bahubali starts off with a story showing off a chapter from the life of Shivudu, and the climax is the end with Bahubali announced as the king. But the cliffhanger about why Katappa killed Bahubali is never a reason for you to feel not satisfied with the 2.5 hours that you have watched. So you are happy with the story that was shown and there is more. That is why Bahubali works. The next is KGF. Same, Rocky Bhai killing Garuda and taking the throne of KGF is the end of that chapter. But what happened after that and why is that place missing? Where is Rocky? That is why you will want to watch KGF 2. Take Vikram for example. Rolex will come and take things to the next level. But the main story and the chapter that they opened ends there. So all the sequels and prequels that worked have closure for the opening arcs of the chapter, not the story. Pushpa the Rise also makes Pushpa the head of syndicate, but now there is a cop who is as egoistic as Pushpa, and Pushpa and Bhanwar Singh Shekhawat did their fair share of damage to each other. So what happens next is for part 2. But part 1 alone was satisfying. Number 2, movies that didn't work. Now, let's look at movies that didn't work. Devara has a very interesting setup and premise, but there are a lot of loose ends and open ends left for part 2, leaving this experience unsatisfied and pushing all the important elements to part 2 made this film shallow. And the cliffhanger is very predictable. The recent release Pushpa 2 also suffers the same problem. The set pieces and performance are brilliant, even if the story is not going anywhere. And even though the questions for upcoming parts are interesting, you are not satisfied with this part. So why will you be excited for the next one? But interestingly, both the films are commercial blockbusters. How? That is topic for some other time. But there is another catch here. Then movies like Goat, Leo and Kalki 2898 AD actually have their first chapters properly closed, just like Bahubali, and have an interesting cliffhanger. Then why did they receive criticism? The key is experience and satisfaction, not formula and package. Interesting premise, too many characters, new worlds, cliffhanger endings. These are not the formulas. The satisfaction is the formula. If the movies are able to satisfy the audience, they will come and watch the next installments. Are they really a threat? In a way, yes. Take today's Hollywood for example. Marvel, Fast and Furious, Star Wars, Mission Impossible. Most of the famous and commercially successful films. From a production standpoint, it is good because you don't have to establish characters and worlds. You can tell your story. But over a period, the importance to original stories reduce. We can see the same trend in Bollywood. Stree 2, War 2, Tiger 3, Bhool Bhulaiya 3, Singham Again. It is filled with sequels. Tell me one successful recent movie that you are excited about which is not a sequel. It is surely a threat, especially to pan-India movies, because new characters, worlds and premises are the reason for their success. Ideal situation would be Rocky and Pushpa to blow up along with more tales of Rocky and Pushpa. On a closing note, cinema is a creative medium. Any kind of formula or a template is always a threat. If makers are looking at the successful pan-India movies and picking up formulas from them and try to recreate, it is not gonna work out. And if the intention of making this pan-India movie just a cash grab so that you can make more money on the existing ones, it is definitely not gonna work. The new, creative and innovative ideas should and will thrive. What is your opinion about this? Mention that in the comments below. And for more such interesting videos, please subscribe to the channel, and if you agree with me, like. If you don't, mention that also in the comments below. With that, this is Maruti Acharya and you're watching India Today.